Hey, everybody. Welcome to SOS Small Business Success Podcast. Oh, good to be back. For those of you that missed me, anyway, I'm your host, Bonnie Bonadeo. And, we're all about building brands to help you survive while developing people that thrive. And I got to tell you, surviving has been a little tough for me the last month. I kind of had to take a hiatus. I lost my mom and my dog in the same day on two very separate, unrelated incidents, 1,800 miles apart. Had to go into survival mode there to kind of take care of what needed to be done. So today's episode 88, is called The Life Preserver. I'm going to get through a little bit of some healing here. And then, we have to finish out the year strong as usual, and we have to look forward to what we have in front of us in 2023, no matter how difficult it may be or how stressed we might be at this point in time. So let's let the life preserver do its job for us. Today, in my framework of sales operations, mindset, marketing, and education, it's a little bit of both, you guys. I'm giving you the whole sum strategy today, but I think it's probably got a little bit more lean towards mindset than anything. And certainly that's gonna help you to look at it from a perspective, because sometimes we think that we don't have the tools to be able to get past things, circumstances, events, tragedies that happen to us. And the truth is that we do have the tools to be able to do it. We just have to be able to be patient with the tools, and we have to understand the tools with a little bit more depth. So I'm going to go through that today, and this is called the healing formula. And so, there's this point where when you have something happen to you as devastating as losing a parent, my mother and I were very, very close. So this is devastating to me. And it was fairly tragic, but I'm getting through it. My dog, Lily, she was a 7.5 ounce, 7 pounds, 5 ounce Chihuahua. And she, oh my gosh, she was 14 years old. And, hers was quite tragic as well. I mean, she was fine up until the day she got sick. And then that was the day, of course, she died at the emergency vet. So I didn't have an indication that there was something terribly wrong with her in this moment. But 14 years is a long time for a dog to live. And I'm just so grateful for every one of those days. But boy, do I miss that little creature being by my side, being on my lap, following me around the house. Like she gave me purpose. Like my mother gave me purpose. Lily gave me purpose as well. She was loved by many. So it does kind of like, make you take a step back. So I haven't been here for the last month because I've been having to travel to Phoenix to take care of my mom's estate, which in fact is kind of like our childhood home and everything that we grew up with. So it's not just like I lost my dog and then lost my mom. It's there's going to be a continuation of grieving and healing, because the entire existence of my childhood is also kind of going away, being sold, being passed on to somebody else, strangers for that matter. And so there's a lot of work to be done in it, but there's a lot of sadness in it as well. So let's talk about the healing formula, because when we lose something, we have this tendency to hold on really tight, and you have to think who and what is keeping you above the waterline right now, from drowning in emotion. So here's kind of a basic healing formula. You could certainly Google this and discover your own, but it starts out with shock, denial, sadness, anger, and hope. And then there's some other layers in between each of those that we'll go through, but that's kind of the order of it. Now, it's the order of how it happens. It doesn't mean it's the order of how you're going to heal. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. And that's not necessarily a permanent order. In other words, sadness, anger might flip-flop a little bit more than usual, depending on how you manage certain emotions anyway. I'm not somebody that goes into sadness a lot. I prefer anger. Anger is kind of a driver. It forces me to get through things. I become more active. I become more diligent, to get through things versus wallowing in sadness. But I've found that little home of sadness. I can tell you, it's there, but it does flip flop a lot. So sometimes it's more sadness is the emotion I'm feeling, and sometimes it's more anger that I'm feeling. But I can't be too angry at the fact that my mother lived a long, beautiful life. My dog lived a long, beautiful life, and it is part of life. Death is part of life. So you can't really stop when you're going through all these emotions, but it's sometimes hard to be able to keep going. So let's look at these self-healing tools that we're talking about here. Now, it can feel like a Russian roulette wheel, right? What I'm going to spin the wheel, and what emotion am I going to be dealing with today? Because what happens is that even though there's this like sequential order of how we can heal, in the beginning, you're going to flip flop through all of them randomly. It's not like, oh, okay, so I'm through shock and now I'm going to work my way into denial. And following denial, I will make a decision whether it's sadness or anger. And then eventually I'll get to hope type of thing. It is, you go to bed at night and then you wake up that morning and shock kind of hits you again because you realize, oh my gosh, my dog is gone. My mother is gone. Could be your business, could be your partner, could be your relationship, could be, a family member, a loved one, could be anything, right? And so you wake up and shock kind of like smacks you in the face a little bit again. And shock is kind of it's like, how did this happen? We question it. How did this happen? How did I not know? Why wasn't I prepared? We kind of put ourselves into that position of thinking that we constantly have to battle like somehow we should have known. And of course, as time goes by and as healing really presents itself formally to you, you will always find that, hindsight is 2020, and that there probably were some signs of some things that were about to change, whether it's, a loved one not feeling well, or an employee that kind of started, detaching themselves from the culture or the environment a little bit more. The signs are usually there afterwards, but not necessarily in the beginning when we're going through healing. So shock is like, how did this happen? And we question ourselves. Denial then becomes the counterpart to it that says, I can't believe this happened. And it does have a little bit of victimness to it, like it starts to develop that part of, I can't believe this happened. How did this happen to me? Approach to it. How did I not see this? And we again start questioning ourselves in there. I'm gonna roll to sadness here, in this particular thing, because sadness then becomes kind of that true victim mentality that says, why did this happen to me? And then there's guilt and other type of emotions that start to layer into this process in here. And then you go to anger. You're mad because it's maybe you're mad because of you couldn't save this particular situation or this person or this circumstance. Maybe you're mad that you were uninformed, or it was, it everybody knew but you type of thing. These type of situations happen when we lose something that we value, right? So the anger part can be like, you're so mad that it happened that, the fear sets in of, is something else going to happen? Is the other shoe going to drop? Fear sets in that makes us, especially if it's a death, it makes us question our own mortality. And then we think, oh my gosh, when's my time coming up? Do I got to take better care of myself? Oh, I could be right on that path of this happening. Or, you're saying, who's next? You lost one employee and you're uncomfortable with this, but then you're thinking, who's next? Because they don't always just go by one. And then eventually you get to this place where there's a little bit of hope on the other side of it. And it's just working through the emotions. And what you don't want to do is you don't want to stay in denial for too long. You really have to recognize when you're in denial and prepare yourself to get out of denial, because the true healing is feeling and releasing the emotions of sadness and anger. When you hold on to sadness and anger and resentment and resistance, then what happens is that you hold on to that, and you never completely fully heal. So denial can be a dangerous one. Staying in sadness and anger can be, a detriment to you. So you want to be able to feel the emotions. You want to be able to get through the emotions, and hopefully the people that are in your life are supporting you to be able to get through these emotions and understand that it's all very much up and down. It is not a one-track approach here to this. Now, that's if you look at that from this point, that's the grieving part of healing, right? That's just the grieving part. It's something's happened and it's put you on a trajectory of not being whole and complete for a temporary amount of time, okay? Whatever that time is, because we all will grieve differently. We all will grieve with a different way of handling it and everything. But just know, if there's somebody in your life that is grieving, just, really be present with them. But the next step to the healing process is really then being able to forgive. So if it's forgiving something or somebody, when you get to that place, it helps you to release and then go into the next phase, which is acceptance. And acceptance is, okay. And I feel like this part of the path of the healing formula is I'm very well attuned to, and I see the progress that I'm already making. I'm still going to be grieving in and out for a while, but I can get to that forgiveness place quickly, because I know that in my circumstances of my dog and my mother, that they lived a long, beautiful life. Okay, I can accept that. I can surrender to the fact that if we live, we must die. I can surrender to the fact that there's truth in that, and that even though it felt, sudden and a bit tragic, that I can allow that to just be what it was, and not walk around overly or hypersensitive to how it happened, or that I didn't get to say my goodbyes, or I didn't get to close it out in a more loving or formal way type of thing. And then finally into this whole healing formula program that I do provide and teach as a life coaching component here, is ownership. And when you get to that ownership phase, it means that you have nothing. You don't need to be grieving any longer. You can miss and still have memories of these people or this situation, but there's nothing to forgive anymore. It's complete acceptance, so it's not holding you back. You've surrendered to the point of that you understand it's how life works. And then of course, ownership just wraps it all together and makes it feel very, very comfortable in there. So doesn't matter what the loss is, you guys. I mean, we have loss in so many different ways. Mine happened to be, a person and my pet, but loss can also come as losing an employee, when they decide they're going to move on, or losing a business. And we've had a lot of that over the last couple of years. I've coached many clients and salon owners over the last couple of years that have struggled with whether to hang on to their business or whether to let it go, or some were in the process of selling their businesses. And looking for a different path for themselves, but it's still loss. You're still going to go through all of these processes that I just shared with you. It could be a partner, it could be a home, could be a job, could be a client. I mean, I see it all the time on these salon forums that, people are just looking at, I just have to let this client go type of thing, but it still feels sad, and you don't want to have to do it. that loss really wraps up all of that. And of course, how we act and react during this time is key, because we still have to kind of keep ourselves together. We still have to present ourselves. We still have to go to work. We still have to take care of our family. We still have to be a part of society and our communities. We have to figure out how to manage this. And, and people have been very gracious. I mean, I've been to 2 major industry events since this has happened, and people were nothing but gracious and understood. And the people that I was closest to understood that, I might not be the same vivacious person, that I was withdrawn a little bit, that I, small talk was very difficult for me. It seemed unimportant in the moment and hard and difficult for me to do, which, and I'm a small talk queen. I can talk all day in small talk. So, how I'm acting and reacting is a little bit different than I normally would, but I'm accepting this part of my grief and my healing. And those closest to me understand this as well, which is really good. So now I've got some fun things that I'm going to be doing in 2023. So my dear friend Gloria Coppola, she said that we're going to be doing a part 2 series of a book we did, and it was already 4 years ago. And it was shocking to me that it was 4 years ago, because I cannot believe that it was 4 years ago. Women Standing Strong Together. And I just felt like, I wanted to be in the participant of part 2. So I'm going to be reviewing, building my story for this particular book, this collaborative book. And I know that if you guys are dealing with any grief or healing at this point, that sometimes sharing it in a story can be a really healthy approach. So I have a template. If you go to my Instagram and go to my bio, you can download this story template easy. But I'm going to be pulling that out and using that, because I'm going to be writing a chapter in this book, and I want it to be about healing. I want it to feel connected to that. Of course, we're in 4th quarter now, and I just completed the series in September of how to recession-proof your salon. So that's available as well as a workbook download. And I'll have all of the series available to you as well from my website. But in the meantime, there are 5 sessions that you can just go back to in this podcast and listen to it. It's part 1 and goes through 5, that you can listen to it to be able to catch up and download the free workbook as well. And then in 2023, I'm going to be a participant in the Pennsylvania Beauty Pro Expo on April 24th and 25th. I'm very excited about that. I'm bringing some new content and some things I've been working on this year into this program next year. And I'm very excited about this. And I think that is actually going to be working towards a book as well for me. And then, of course, I'm very excited about this, is join me for the Virgin Cruise, May 7th through 12th. We're going to be starting out in Miami, going to Mexico, heading over to the Bahamas, and then heading back to Miami. And there's going to be some beautiful educators and education taking place while we're at sea. So there's fun. There is fun people. There's going to be some fun education. There's going to be some toes in the sand and some drinks in hands. So join me on that if you're interested in that, because this is a Virgin cruise, and it is, so it's adult only. And I think it's going to be a fabulous time. So here's my link that you can find it at. So you can go to the Facebook page as well. And it is Mayan Soul Beauty Cruises. Or you can go to beautyindustrycruises.com to find out more. And then, of course, if you get this message from me and you're referred by me, please mention my name, because I want to know that you're part of the community that I am inviting into this program here. All right, here's your recession proof guide. You can download that at recessionproofyoursalon.com. And you guys, as always, thanks for listening to my podcast. I'm sorry it was a little bit sadder today than normal, but I do appreciate you being a part of it. And I look forward to finishing out the year strong with these podcasts. And I'm going to be inviting some of my friends that are going to be participating in this cruise with me to be some of the guests on the podcast, so you can hear what we're bringing to this fun cruise educational event. All right. Until next time, you guys, be safe out there. And remember, you got a life preserver in me. If you need any support, you can always call on me or set up a complimentary session with me to be able to get the support that you need.